Do you think it's too extreme for students to go to the Forbidden Forest for detention?
Yeah. It's like life or death
Yes.
dangerous. Like there's a fine line between like detention and like go risk your life because you're in trouble. That's just a little foolish to me.
I don't know. I wasn't that worried at first, to be honest, because when it was first brought up as a detention, I was like, oh, okay. So the forest isn't really that big of a deal. They just gave it a scary name to keep kids out of it. The same we used to do as camp counselors. We made the woods like we came up with the mud monster or the mud moose because it's like when you come up with a scary story, keeps the kids from wandering down there. And that's what I was thinking this was. But then they get there, I'm like, oh, this actually is sketchy. Like unicorns getting killed and like creepy stuff and it's dark and they might just get lost. There's a reason they're not supposed to go there. It's forbidden, guys. So why are they letting them now? Seems weird.
Do you have another theory though that you were talking like off this podcast where you were saying that maybe no one believed Hagrid about the unicorn?
Yeah. Like I was just thinking in the teacher's lounge, it almost seemed funny. It was like maybe they were discussing this like, all right, we need to come up with a good detention. And Hagrid's like, no, there are like dead unicorns. And they're like, all right, Hagrid, yeah, some issue in the forest, yeah. And then they're like, actually, yeah, that'd be a good punishment. We'll deal with that. We'll send some kids your way. Because there's no way the teachers actually understood the gravity of the situation. Or they wouldn't have sent 4 first years down there.
Yeah. When you said that, I was like, ooh, I think that's something.
But it seems like maybe a bit of a stretch.
I do have one more thing to say. The one thing that threw me was when McGonagall was like, detention, meet here at 11 p.m.
Yeah.
At
Like,
night,
aren't
yeah.
they supposed to be in bed?
I mean, right. That's like really close to curfew. They're, that was a little sketchy.
Their detention was literally because they were up out of bed after
Right.
hours. And so their detention is they have to
Yeah.
spend the entire night in the Forbidden
That's
Forest.
so scary.
I know. And to that point, Hagrid had never seen a unicorn die before. And then their detention for 4 first years is to go and investigate the murder of something that he's never seen before. Something really scary and suspicious that he's never seen in the woods before.
That's crazy.
And then let's split up.
I know.
What?
That was insane.
You guys get a dog
Oh my gosh.
or a boar.
Well, I thought it was a boar the whole time. Like, what? Oh, okay. At least he has tusks. Like, he's gonna go, like,
He'll defend them.
he'll defend them. I don't know.
Oh, goodness.
Wow. And I didn't even know until I got a picture from your picture book that he was not a boar. So that's great.
Oh my gosh,
love
so
it.
good. Welcome to our podcast. I'm John.
Jen.
Danny?
And Kristen.
This is Harry Potter and the First Time Readers.
We're getting good at that.
Oh, yeah.
Really good at that.
I hear the music.
That's our music.
Today we are going over chapters 15 to 17 of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. The best thing that anybody can do listening to this right now is give us a rating and a review wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, wherever it is. Give us a good review, give us a good rating. We'll even read some reviews on the podcast live. Today we are also snacking on chocolate frogs rather than Bertie Bott's every flavored beans, which is a drastic improvement. We're very excited. And we just want to thank you for joining us on our journey of Harry Potter and the First Time Readers.
I'm obsessed with that music. Just a little
Isn't
side
it
note.
so good?
Yes.
By the way, we've given a shout out before, but our composer is Jacob Petrus. He's from Poland. He is unbelievable. So good. And our designer is Zachary Rupert. So good. Oh, these people are so good. If you like their stuff, go check them out. Zachary Rupert is on Dribble and Jacob Petrus is on Artlist. So good. Anyway, let's break into these last 3 chapters. We are in the last 3 chapters of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. This is very exciting. The very first one is the Forbidden Forest. Can one of you give me a summary of the Forbidden Forest chapter?
They get caught, as we suspected at the end of the last chapter. They get detention in the Forbidden Forest, where they hunt for a unicorn killer, meet some centaurs, and Harry gets a glimpse of a mysterious character who may be the one who shan't be named.
Yeah, because we will not say his name on this podcast until we're comfortable with it.
Right. I gotta still warm
I'm
up
gonna
to
quote
it.
the book at you.
Well, when we get
We're
to that
not
part of
there
the
yet.
book, maybe
Yeah,
I'll be
yeah,
ready.
yeah.
Okay.
I've been waiting.
I love that one.
Great summary. Here is the first question that I have for you. McGonagall says that she has never heard of 4 students out of bed before. Is that realistic?
No.
No.
There's no way.
She's
She
just
didn't
guilty.
know about it? This is the only one she caught?
Yeah.
This is the only time she caught 4 students? Yeah, right.
She's guilting them for sure.
Exactly. And there's another thing that I have too I know professors probably have to patrol the corridors and stuff like that during nights, but it seems like all these professors are just awake at night patrolling the corridors. Like,
Do
I
they
never even
need
thought
sleep?
that.
Maybe they don't need sleep.
yeah, they just do
Maybe
it.
because she's turned into a cat, she doesn't need sleep.
Ooh.
Cats are nocturnal, right? Kind of nocturnal.
I think so.
Yeah,
I don't have a
mine
cat.
used to run around the house at 3 a.m. So
This is
maybe they are.
A rest potion.
So she's just
Down.
running around the hallways as a cat, and then anytime something bad happens, she.
But also,
But she's never been a cat at Hogwarts, right?
right. I feel like
Oh,
I've
yeah.
only seen her as a cat one time.
Disguise
Hmm.
in the Muggle world.
Mm.
But the other ones didn't need a disguise. Hagrid and Dumbledore just
Yeah.
as is. Anyways,
But the question is, can they change into an animal? And if they could change into an animal, what animal would Hagrid and Dumbledore change into?
Hagrid would be like a bear.
Yeah, he'd have to be
Yeah,
gigantic.
something big.
That would make sense, actually. That'd
Yeah.
be cool.
What about a boar and a
I was-
dog?
oh my gosh. Half boar, half dog.
There you go. Get the best of all the worlds.
A dog with tusks. Like the face.
That'd be so cool,
You'd
actually.
basically be a minotaur. That'd be awesome.
What do you think Dumbledore would be?
Like a hawk or an eagle. What do you think?
I think that's a good one. I would probably say some kind of bird. And we were talking about this last podcast, but the Thunderbird, which is part of the Ilvermorny housing, maybe he could be like a Thunderbird.
What do they even look like?
They're cool. They're massive birds in the Wizarding world, and apparently they can stir up, like thunderstorms. So like, and then when it flaps its wings, it flies up
That's
and like
pretty
creates
awesome.
tornadoes,
That is
and
cool.
rain and stuff like that. Right? How cool is that?
I would want to be that.
Yeah. Forget your fly on the wall thing.
I know, right? I threw that
wow.
away.
Oh, I want to be a
They're
Thunderbird.
huge.
Right? Yeah, they're huge. They're massive. They're very
That's
cool.
not real.
That would be ironic for me to turn
They're
into
real
that.
creatures. Thunderbirds. You didn't know about that?
No. You knew about that?
This one, look at that smirk.
What is like a bird like studier called?
A bird studier?
No, I know it. It's
It's not studier. Like what?
Okay, so it's a little, yeah, she's definitely probably seen 4 students out of bed before. That's a little ridiculous.
But also, aren't they kind of bold for being first years out of bed like this? Just like going around. That's got to be abnormal, at least for first years, though.
Yeah.
But
Like Fred and George must have done this a million times.
That's what I was thinking.
First years?
wouldn't they have done that as first years?
Maybe.
I feel like Fred and George would. They were the
Yeah,
first
I
2 that came to
guess.
mind. I'm like, there's at least 2. And they're definitely bringing their
Did
friends
they
in
have
with
the
it.
cloak on? No, they left the cloak. I'm
They-
getting.
No, they had the cloak
They had
on.
the cloak and then they
But
left
they
it.
left
it
it
up
up
at
at
the
the
And
tower.
then they were, yeah. So like I would be more daring, I think, if I had an invisibility cloak.
Yeah, definitely.
True.
And then you're like, oh shoot, I forgot it. I'm gonna get caught. Why can't they hide from her?
I feel like there'd be some kind of weird line for this, because as a first year, I think I'd be so curious about the castle. I would want to sneak out and check every like little nook and crevice, but I don't think I would want to do it alone because I think it's just a little scary.
Yeah.
So like 4 people, 4 first years out of bed might not be the most far-fetched thing, but then maybe it teeters off. You kind of get used to the castle, and then you only sneak out whenever you want something or need something. Like Fred and George are definitely sneaking out to go to the kitchen because they want midnight
Yeah.
snacks, and like they're like sneaking out for specific purposes, to prank people or to do something. But maybe when you're older, you kind of just get bored and you're like, I just need sleep right now. I have exams coming up in the morning or something like that.
That's because
Yeah.
you're 30-something years old. That is why you're
I'm like,
saying
I just want to go to bed right now. It's too late.
All of
Best
us.
possible use
I
of
feel like
my
it's
time.
9 p.m.
because
Good
I'm
night.
pretty sure we were all in college. Be like, yeah, or no, it's high school. Sorry.
Yeah, they're young.
We would be the group that there's first years making noise in the corridors in the main what's the room called again?
Common room or something?
Common room, yeah. And we would go yell at them for being loud. I'm trying to go to bed. It's 8 o'clock. What are you talking about? Shut up.
Speak for yourself.
All right. There's another question that we have here. At this point in the book, were you convinced that Snape was a main assailant to Quirrell?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, me too.
Were you all convinced that Snape was going to be the bad guy?
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, just because they were always together too. And then it seems as though anytime Snape was around, Harry Potter, something happened to him, or he would always be getting him in trouble.
But here's a more important question. Would you bet 12 Sorcerer stones on it?
Oh my!
Because that's what Harry said. He said, I would
I'm
bet
like, 12.
12
There are 12
Sorcerer
of these?
stones
Okay, what the?
that Snape is doing this.
Does he even know what it is at that time? Yeah, he does.
Mm-mm.
12
Yeah.
eternity stones.
I know.
I mean, all the evidence
It'll give
did
you
point to
immortal
Snape.
life. Huh?
All the evidence did point to Snape.
I know. Yeah.
You know, like blatantly.
Yeah, but we'll get there in a bit. I'll ask that question again in the end. And then there's just some really good lines in this chapter too. Like one of the first ones, it was the first time Hermione had ever failed to answer a teacher's questions. She was staring at her slippers as still as a statue. And then they get sent into the forest, which he talked about, which is a very extreme punishment for first years. And I love this line where Malfoy said quickly, I want Fang, looking at Fang's long teeth. All right, but I warn you, he's a coward, said Hagrid, which I just love. And here's one of my questions for you. Hagrid goes by Hagrid and not Rubeus. Do you find that strange that a teacher goes just by their last name and not like Professor or Mr. Hagrid? It's just Hagrid.
Wait, what? His first name is Rubeus?
Rubeus Hagrid.
Is that in this
Oh,
chapter?
we
I
know
didn't
Rubeus
see this.
Hagrid. No, it's in the
Rubeus.
beginning. When he introduces
Oh,
himself,
Yeah.
interesting.
he says, "My name's Hagrid."
Oh, I think
Rubeus
I
Hagrid.
do remember that.
Like
It's so
Bond.
funny. I don't
James
think of
Bond.
him as a. I didn't think it was weird because I don't think of him as a professor.
Yeah, kind of.
Like, I think because there's that friendship basis that he has with Harry. So in my mind, he's like not really one of the professors, but I guess that is weird.
But I feel like that's kind of a thing in their world. Like even Dumbledore. Do they call him headmaster or professor or whatever? He's just Dumbledore.
Oh, yeah.
Malfoy is Malfoy a lot of the time. He's a student, I know, and sometimes he's Draco. But even, are the professors always Professor something? I feel like they kind of call them by their last names.
Well, students do just call them by their last names. Harry always says Snape or McGonagall or Dumbledore, but Dumbledore always corrects them on that.
But even Dumbledore calls Hagrid Hagrid.
Yeah, he only calls Hagrid Hagrid, which is interesting. He doesn't call him Mr.
But he's
Hagrid.
not really a professor. He just is the gamekeeper.
Yeah.
But then why
What
not call
exactly
him by
is
his
that?
first name?
I guess gamekeeper. He's the keeper of
Games.
Games.
Well, that's great. Thanks for that definition.
Profound right there.
He's like the groundskeeper, I think. He's not like, I think Filch is the inside groundskeeper and Hagrid's the outside groundskeeper.
Huh.
That's
So shouldn't
my
it be
take on things.
groundskeeper? What's game?
I-
Or game could be animals?
Yeah, animals, I think.
Oh, is that
I think
what
he
it
keeps
is?
a lot of the animals, yeah.
Like
So that's why
in
yeah, we can't get into all that right now, but yeah. There's some other really interesting lines because Harry meets the centaur, all that kind of stuff. And there's one, I think, really profound line in this where the centaur looks at Harry and says, "Always the innocent are the first victims," he said. "So it has been for ages past, so it is now." I think that's a really good line just because the unicorn just was innocent.
I actually wrote that down.
Right?
That was like one of the first quotes. I don't know why it like just struck me.
And then after that, he sits and he goes, "Yet again, Ronan took a while to answer. At last, he said, 'The forest hides many secrets.'" I just like that line too. Like the Forbidden Forest is just this emblem of mystery to it, where you don't exactly know what's going on there, especially in the first book. And it just is like exciting but terrifying at the same time. And why you're sending 4 first-year students there, do not know. And then the centaurs seem to have some kind of otherworldly knowledge. How much do you think the centaurs know? Do you think they know everything that's going to happen?
No, I think they know.
Yeah, because didn't they mention? I can't talk. Didn't they mention something that they got wrong? Didn't somebody mention?
Yeah,
like
at the end, somebody says that. Oh, yeah. At the end of Ferenz,
Yeah.
he says, the planets have been read wrongly before now, even by centaurs. I hope this is one of those times.
But Mars is especially bright tonight.
What does it mean?
This one quotes it from memory.
And it's interesting too, because do you know, any quiz for you guys, what is Mars? What is the Greek god or the Roman god Mars? He's the god of war. So it's interesting that he's especially bright, so there is war coming almost.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, right? I like how they picked Mars for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the planets have been read wrongly before now, even by centaurs. I hope this is one of those times. And then after, is it at the end of this chapter, then Harry gets his invisibility cloak back? Right, he finishes this up, wraps things up, and then he goes back and he gets his invisibility.
It's like
wasn't there
With another little note.
a note that says just in case.
And who do you think gave it to him at this point?
It says dump, right? Doesn't it?
Does it say Dumbledore?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't
it
say
does.
who.
It just says just in case.
Oh,
Because we don't know who it is until the end of this book, right? So I can get all this.
I don't think I thought it was him though. Still.
I still was leaning a little McGonagall at this time,
Yeah.
but this line seemed more Dumbledore or Hagrid. It's just a little bit playful, short and sweet, a little something about it. I was like, oh, this maybe not McGonagall. Or maybe somebody we didn't know yet, but I was still curious at this point.
All right, chapter 16, Through the Trapdoor. What is the summary of this chapter?
Awesome.
Oh,
turn,
yeah.
Jen.
Also, our chocolate frogs. Feel free to dig in.
Oh,
yeah.
We are, we said it at the beginning of the podcast, but we're eating chocolate frogs. We each have a playing card, so we can see what playing card we get.
This is fun. This brings me back to my like
It's
Pokemon
like
days.
a hologram. Pokemon days.
I got Birdie
Oh yeah,
Bot.
I used to collect them.
It's boring.
Ooh.
Oh, it's a holographic looking thing.
You're gonna want mine.
You get Dumbledore? Oh, you got
What?
Ollivander? What?
So did I.
Did you really?
I'm so jealous.
They're
Well,
cool. They're
What do you
like
got?
Daisy Doddridge.
What does it say Daisy did?
I can't read through the chocolate painting. Let me open this up.
Pretty.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's pretty good.
Now I get Ron a little more.
Tough.
I'll eat 500
Chocolate
of
is
these.
always the best choice. I love that it's all drinks. Like she's cheersing.
All right. What happened in the Through the Trapdoor chapter? They went through the trapdoor.
But first, they had to put Fluffy to sleep. And then afterwards, they had to catch a key, solve a riddle, play chess, and get to the final room.
Potions.
this one's ready for the summaries.
Yeah.
I wrote them down this time.
Good job.
Before all that stuff happens, before they actually go through the trapdoor, they're taking their finals. And for one of their finals, they have to make a pineapple tap dance across the room. Do you think you could do that?
Gotta give it legs first? Man.
Yeah, what would you do? How would you make a pineapple tap dance?
We all have taken tap dance.
I know. I was laughing at that because I'm like, we all started taking tap lessons. So, we could
Got my
teach them.
shoes. Yeah.
Kristen
3
would
out of
be
the
in the
4.
back, like literally training the pineapple to tap dance.
Oh my goodness. I can see it.
Lessons.
And 1 and 2 and 3.
Yeah, come on.
You would have the best tap dance pineapple in the entire class.
I'm trying to think how it like. I guess you just like shove tap dance shoes underneath it.
I guess.
Because where would you like attach them?
Wait, if we had magic, what would we do? Or
Yeah. I guess you have to create feet.
Like if
for
we were
it.
Oh,
taking
okay.
that final.
Yeah.
I guess it would just hover over them.
Or maybe it would just
Like-
have one shoe and it could kind of like, no legs, just like Veggie
Yeah.
Tales, just hop around.
Yeah.
I think we could do it. We can make it
This would be
happen.
I
fruit
can
tails.
see it. Very cute. Very cute.
But that does feel like a pretty intense final. Like if they're doing that kind of stuff and doing it well, they're progressing quickly.
It's true.
Okay, what do you think Harry's issue is with this scar? Why does it hurt sometimes? Why does it not hurt others? Do you have any ideas for that yet?
I know. I find that so fascinating. Because it's always when... What are we called?
Voldy?
He who must not be named.
I have trouble with that one. I just want to say his name. Anytime he's like around, even if Harry is not aware, it like hurts. So it seems somehow to connect to the accident. But it's weird. Like, why? I don't know. And then is it like when he's closer, it's more painful too? So is it like a warning sign?
Yeah, I don't know if it's like proximity or like foreshadowing of like something that is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Because Harry says that too. He goes, I think it's a warning. In this specific time, when he's like enduring it during his finals, he goes, I think it's a warning. It means danger is coming.
Yeah, that's what
That's
I was
kind of his
that's
basic,
why.
but it's not. That's not necessarily it, really.
You know what?
It's
I
like
think
his
it's all
fir-
in his head.
But
Well, kind of on his head. But I think that
purpose.
I don't think it has any connection to the people around him or the one who will not be named. I feel like it's just when he thinks something is bad. It's like when you've had a knee replacement and you can tell it's going to rain. It's like one of those things, you know, like it could be an indication of something out of his control. But I more think of it as just like getting a headache if you start having anxiety about something. Because I don't know, it feels like it hurts at strange times.
But why wouldn't it hurt during the Forbidden Forest when he was afraid before he encountered?
Well, I think it's only when he thinks true evil is around.
And maybe he was afraid of whatever was in the forest, but maybe he didn't think it was true evil. That's interesting.
It feels like a bit of a stretch but I just can't figure out why it would be like hurting when Snape looked at him at the beginning. And then when he's seeing that thing eating the unicorn. And I think it happened a few other times. Like, is there still a magic thing happening in his head? Is it some kind of attack?
Or is he somehow tied to like evil power because he has a scar from Voldemort? But then that wouldn't make sense, right? I forgot that he did that. Like when was that in the beginning?
Yeah, in the very beginning. And we know he hates Harry's dad, but it still feels a bit aggressive for him to be like, I'm going to cause this student pain from across the room and give him pain in his forehead on this scar given to him by a super evil dude. Like, that feels a bit aggressive.
But then I was thinking, what about the love? I don't know what it is. Is it a love spell or whatever that when Harry's mom died for him? Then I wonder if anything that's like Snape didn't like his dad, so he was kind of like against. So anything that's against like loving would be the opposite of love, hate.
Right. So like it
Towards
throbs
you?
at that point. It causes a little pain.
That's a stretch too, but
No, that makes sense. Like if it's resisting, like that is the love of his mom still protecting him when there is some kind of attack from something.
yeah, but then it would hurt all the time, I guess, with Snape. So maybe that doesn't make sense. I don't know.
It's like a remembrall. It glows, but you don't know why it glows.
Yes.
Oh, why does my scar hurt so bad? This sucks. Just tell me why it hurts.
I want to know why
You need, like,
so bad.
His
Right?
scar needs to like transform into like words across his forehead that he like can read them in a mirror at the Mirror of Erised. Whatever it is.
I have a funny story that I like. I feel like Harry Potter because I have like this line on my forehead now because I fell in the shower. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, now I feel like I look in the mirror and I think of Harry Potter getting ready.
You can't escape
Oh
it.
my
can't escape it.
goodness.
Harry Potter comes up endless times in my life every single day. Of course, I don't say it out loud to anyone because I don't want anyone knowing usually, but I'm just like all the time. I'm just fully immersed. It's the best.
Yes. I mean, you guys saw I went shopping.
Yes.
Found the Harry Potter. I almost bought them. They were really cheap, though.
You literally don't know how happy this is making me. This is like my life.
How much
My life's
Harry
ambition.
Potter stuff do you have?
Not a ton of like merch. I have
your wand and your robe.
No, I don't know.
No, he doesn't even have
yeah.
those.
I know.
I'm the one who has
I
that.
just collect. I collect different books, like of the
Mm.
books. I like.
Mm.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing.
The picture.
So I
looks
gotta get
cool.
more. I gotta get a wand. But every time I went to Barnes and Noble and the wands were just expensive. I'm like,
Yeah.
I thought you were
I
making
love it,
your own.
but I know I'm gonna
I can't wait.
incorporate something cool into it.
Maybe Jake can make
Ooh.
one for you.
I know.
I was
That
gonna
would
say
That's what I
be
told him to
sick.
start doing. I know.
Oh yeah, that's right.
they're cooler to make on your own anyway.
Yeah,
Because like I got one from where was it? Spirit Halloween, I think, and it's like,
it's cheap.
it's garbage. Yeah,
I know.
it's fun.
But what
but-
about
need a core
in
anyway.
Universal
I know.
at Ollivander?
Okay, yeah.
Oh
I mean, if we go, that's like
my
I
What do you
really
mean
I
if
don't
we
have.
go?
No. It's not time out. When we go.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah,
What
that
I
is
meant by
perfect.
that was that's the reason why I really haven't gotten a wand first, because I don't feel like it's legitimate until I go to Ollivander's.
Okay.
Fair.
Makes
I
sense.
have to wait till I go there and
Mic drop
get
right
fitted
now.
for a wand.
Good.
Hmm.
Makes sense.
We'll let you go now.
All right, what do you guys think Dumbledore does on a day-to-day basis? Because after this happens, Harry there's a funny line in here where Ron says, Neville will play for Quidditch. Will play Quidditch for England before Hagrid lets Dumbledore down. And then literally a few lines later, they realize that Hagrid let Dumbledore down and told this anonymous person, this random person in a bar, that Fluffy's secret is music. But they try to run to Dumbledore, they can't find him. But what do you think Dumbledore does on a day-to-day basis? Like, is he always at the castle? What is the duties of a headmaster?
I have no idea. It seems so boring.
Right?
But he
Mhm.
seems like so wise that he should be doing awesome, great things. But what?
So yeah, that's interesting. So he should be doing awesome, great things. Like, why didn't he become the Minister of Magic? Why do you think he didn't become the Minister of Magic?
What exactly is Minister of Magic? Like in
It's like the President of the United States, it's like the Prime Minister of England.
and he controls what? Like what spells people can do, or you?
You don't really
you
know what the Minister of Magic.
control-
So
okay.
Minister of Magic, they talked about it early on. The Ministry of
Hmm.
Magic's main job is to hush up the wizards from Muggles.
Muggle. Okay.
They're like to keep their world a secret. But it's like the head honcho job for a wizard. That is the top job you can do.
Hmm.
So why do you think he would reject that and become a headmaster at Hogwarts? Even though Hogwarts is great, Hogwarts is like the best school, behind Ilvermorny, of course. Why would he just want to become headmaster?
He probably likes mentoring kids
Hmm.
into maybe being their best wizard witch self. I don't know.
Mhm.
Very positive. I like that.
That's what I was thinking. Like maybe you like working, because for me, like I would choose working with kids
Yeah.
over all crazy adults.
But it also feels like he's barely involved. I guess. Maybe, granted, their first
Yeah.
years, we're getting that perspective. Maybe he teaches the advanced classes. That could also make sense. But so far, we see him from a distance at meals and 2 conversations with Harry.
But those 2 conversations,
They were
like,
powerful.
yeah.
For sure. He's super wise, but also I'm like, is he just mentoring like what the most famous wizard in the world? Like, what about all these other kids? It feels like he's too hands off, but maybe he's way more involved than I thought. He is there for mealtime, but I kind of picture him dipping off anywhere else during the day, do other things.
Yeah, he is kind of absent a lot.
Like
throughout the book.
he's not caught up in the bureaucracy of the Ministry of Magic. I'm sure there is some bureaucracy there. He's got the freedom to like do things, whatever that means. Fast travel, teleport somewhere, get stuff done.
Maybe
Yeah,
Time
how
for
does
dinner.
he travel?
I was wondering.
Well,
that
he did
question.
have to fly on a broom to London, right?
Did they actually say that though? Or did we assume
Ugh.
that?
I might have
No,
just assumed.
no.
I
They
can't
said that
remember.
because
They
I actually
did?
wondered that. I'm like,
Yeah.
why can't he get somewhere like in an instant? Why did he have to fly back?
Because at the very end, Hagrid or Dumbledore says, "I was on my way to," or I think they said he flew by broomstick, and he said he was on his way there, and about halfway through he turned back because he
Yeah.
felt the need was more pressing at Hogwarts.
Hmm.
But
That was
does
by
it say
broomstick.
flew back on a broomstick?
I'm
On
pretty-
a broomstick?
I'm pretty sure. I think that's
I'm
what
pretty
McGonagall
sure.
told Harry.
Because I
Or
actually thought
flying,
that. I was like,
like,
he has to
doesn't
like
he?
fly back. Why
Mm.
can't he just like?
Yeah, it's faster
I
than
don't
the
know,
train.
do
But
something.
also, this is like the first time we're seeing broomsticks used other than for sport,
Mm-hmm.
like
Hmm.
actual transportation.
Hmm.
And we do know he can be invisible when he wants to. He told Harry that.
Yeah.
So
little
I
flex.
assume he can prevent the Muggles from seeing him.
I'm going back for like a quick second to the chapter with the dragons. When they pick up the dragon, they came on broomsticks.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that
you're
is
right,
a
you're right.
mode
They
of
were- yep.
transportation.
Yep.
All the time.
Mhm.
Okay.
For wizards, yeah.
And witches.
And witches. Sorry. Yeah, I think it's interesting that you all your theories on Dumbledore here for like what he does on a day-to-day basis. Maybe he is doing what he did for Harry like the 2 times. He just does it randomly for other students at different times.
Or is he always having to put spells to protect Hogwarts school? Like, is he always like doing spells in private to help protect
Real
everyone?
advanced stuff.
Mm.
Interesting.
So those spells worked great because a troll got in.
Well, maybe he was traveling
fair.
then.
Yeah, that's true.
He could have been traveling.
True.
That's why he came back immediately.
I don't know. It
Yeah.
wouldn't. That's a far one, but I was like, nah.
There's definitely some
Mm.
aspects of it to it. He seems to care very deeply about his students, even though he is a bit hands off. He seems to care very deeply about his students.
Also, is he still studying? Is he still inventing stuff? Like with Nicholas Flamel, they were doing alchemy, and he was doing like serious work. Like maybe he's got some big life goals, like inventing new spells or potions or I don't know, fancy gadgets for wizards. Like he might be trying to do something major that we just don't know about yet.
Do you guys find Dumbledore to be an ambitious person so far?
Doesn't seem like it.
Hmm.
He seems super chill.
I feel like we don't have enough to go by
Hmm.
to actually answer that, at least for me.
But then, I mean, it's not ambitious. But then, we're not at the point yet where we find out who gave the cloak.
Yeah. Well,
wouldn't be
these
ambitious,
chapters we
though.
are, so we can talk about that in these
Okay.
chapters. Because we're not at the end chapter yet, but we still know that Dumbledore gave Harry the cloak because he said it at the very end.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever's listening to this podcast is listening to all. They've read all the entire Harry Sorcerer Stone book.
I don't know. I feel like maybe that would be I don't know, like giving Harry the cloak again. Like, oh, you lost this invisible cloak, and here it is again. To play into that, like, here, use your. I don't know.
How do you
Is that
find an
ambitious or more
invisible
like
cloak?
guiding?
I know. That's
you
what I'm
know?
like. That's a stretch of a definition,
I mean, it could be. I'm thinking like for him
but
personally,
yeah.
Mm.
No.
like what he wants to do with his life. I don't know.
Yeah, because this card he invented or he found the 12 uses of dragon's blood. He was known for a
Oh,
famous duel, and were those the only 2 things that I said about him? Or no, and for his noted work with Nicholas Flamel, obviously.
Yeah. So I mean, he definitely is.
Or maybe he was.
I was gonna say at this point, moving forward, is he still?
Hmm.
Is he still actively like pursuing things? I don't know.
Or was he always in charge of the headmaster of the school? Like, how long has he been doing that? Or is he like retired from?
Headmaster Emeritus.
I don't know. And so this is what, he does
Yeah.
now.
Seriously.
I don't know.
It's interesting. We'll keep talking about Dumbledore the next chapter too, because we get a lot more of him. But there's a lot of really great lines in this chapter too that I love. There's one, or there's 2 or 3, but there's one that says, like Harry is on a mission right here. Hermione says, "You can't. After what McGonagall and Snape have said, you'll be expelled." "So what?" Harry shouted. "Do you understand? If Snape gets a hold of the stone, Voldemort's coming back." I think this is like a really interesting character study on him.
That was like one of the major turning points for me with him. I was like, he is so mature. I think I mentioned this in the last podcast. For his age, like Hermione is just like, school, expelled, that's bad.
Yep.
Harry's like, it's so much bigger than that. And for him to acknowledge that, I feel like he's really mature in how, like, his perception in life at such a young age.
Yeah. And Ron's head's kind of in the clouds most of the time, except for the one time where Hermione's having trouble. She's thinking about logical ways to do something, and Ron goes, "Have you gone mad? Are you a witch or not?"
That was great.
I love
great
their
line.
interactions because he is just like, you're annoying. And he just says whatever he wants to
I know.
her. Poor Hermione.
I just also love that he thinks he can take him on. Like, he barely knows the spells to make a pineapple tap dance or whatever.
Yeah.
And now he's like, let's go. Why? Why do you think you can do that?
Yeah. I feel like it shows a lot of his maturity, but maybe like righteous anger. Where he can barely make a pineapple tap dance across the street, but you are gonna bet he's going to try to stop this person from getting the sorcerer's stone.
Then is he getting a little prideful, like, oh well, I survived it once, so what is he gonna do this time? Right? I don't know.
Yeah.
He's definitely got like the hot hand fallacy, where he knocked down a shot in his young years, defeated Voldemort.
I feel like he's just determined.
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't really think of it that way, which he could be. Like,
No, that's true. I can see.
but
him.
I feel like he's determined, and he's like, not that he's prideful, but it's almost like this is my responsibility.
Mhm.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, actually, from a fellow Gryffindor.
Here we go.
I can see that now.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh. There's also one of my favorite lines in this whole chapter too is where Harry goes, I'll use the invisibility cloak. It's just lucky I got it back. But will it cover all three of us? Said Ron. Like, his assumption is just like, yeah, of course we're going with you. Like, there's no other choice.
Yeah.
And Harry is thinking he's gonna go himself. But I love that Ron said this too. Like, it was definitely in Hermione's head, but I feel like she backed off just a smidge to let Ron say this. Thank you, Hermione. I think that was like just a very impactful line of friendship. And then my guy Neville. I won't let you do it, he said, hurrying to stand in front of the portrait hole. I'll fight you. He took a step forward, and Neville dropped Trevor the Toad, who leapt out of sight. Go on then, try to hit me, said Neville, raising his fist. I'm ready.
Oh my gosh, I loved that scene.
What are your thoughts on Neville?
He's great.
I
Yeah.
know. He's like so cute.
Yeah. He's like stepped up,
Yeah.
to confront his friends.
Yes.
I was rooting for him.
And that's like the hardest thing to do too.
Right. That's what I was thinking.
Like, standing up to bullies is easy compared to standing up to your friends.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's getting bold. He's getting brave, seeing that inner Gryffindor come out.
He's getting there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Harry's helping him.
I know. And I love, you talked about that before, but the maturity and like even the mentorness, like Harry is just a mentor to people at his young age. It's just insane. Like, he says things just to make people feel better in certain ways. And like, as a middle schooler, I just don't think a lot of sixth graders are thinking on that level. They're trying to be the funniest person in the class. They're trying to fit in. They're trying to do other things. Harry just seems leaps and bounds above everyone else, in that he sees someone in a hurting like position, and he just wants to comfort that person. And even this, like, he's just...
I have a quote that goes with that. I think this is the same chapter. But it says, not for nothing, though, was Harry the youngest seeker in a century. He had a knack for spotting things other people didn't.
Oh,
Right? Like, I feel like, and not just like things, but like character and
that's
just
so
like deeper.
good.
That's why I'm like, he's got a maturity in seeing these things. Just, he's
That's
so young.
such good writing, that double meaning behind it. Like, when I read that, I'm like only thinking, oh yeah, he could see the key, of course. But really, he can see like character in people.
Yeah.
That's so great. Oh, so brilliant. All right, they go through all these tests. I don't have a ton of questions on these tests, but I want to ask, what is your favorite test? And pause. When the logic test came up, did you stop reading and try to figure the test out, or did you just keep reading?
The first time I did not stop, but the other day I sat there and tried to figure it. You're talking about the potions one?
Yeah.
I sat there. I literally have a paper.
No way.
Wow.
Did you get it?
Nice. I want to see your paper.
Well, it's hard because you can't see part of the riddle is size of the bottles.
That's true. That's true.
So I was like, I can't base it off that. So my first shot was wrong. And then I kind of went off of what Hermione said about one. And I think, I don't know.
I have
a lineup. So yes, I did.
Was,
So cool.
was that your favorite of the tests?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was great.
I love like puzzle type things. So that was.
Oh yeah, she can
my
solve
choice.
Rubik's Cube in like a minute.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
that's fitting.
It's fun.
What were your guys' favorite tests?
I just read right through that.
Yeah,
Full speed ahead.
Jen was on vacation, like mode, just like get out of my way. I am reading this. No
Yeah.
one else disturb me.
Pretty much. And then my sister came to visit. I was like, I was doing great when you weren't here, sitting at the beach. Anyways.
Oh, it's so good.
What was your question?
What was your favorite test out of all of them?
Oh, I think I like the keys one. That was kind of cool for
Hmm.
me. Like seeking that out, trying to find the one that's like batted up, or what's the word I want?
Yeah, battered up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I suck at chess. I don't know how to play, so that wouldn't work.
Yeah, I was like, chess wasn't even an option because I don't know how to play.
And the puzzles, I.
What do you think the level of difficulty of chess would be?
Really hard.
like-
McGonagall was the one that.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh,
For
she's
sure.
the one who set it up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's
she's-
kind of bizarre to picture Ron as beating McGonagall
Yeah.
at chess.
Ooh.
Like, that's hard to imagine.
Mm.
But maybe McGonagall purposefully made it a little easier. Because that was my favorite one. I liked it. But I was just like, this is interesting. 'Cause,
Yeah.
well, we did see Ron beat a couple other people. And it made me like Ron because I'm like, oh, maybe he just doesn't apply himself at school. But he clearly is pretty intelligent.
Mm.
Well, didn't he learn? Did he learn at a young age?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought
I was trying to
that's
remember. Like, I
right.
feel like that might
Siblings?
be his thing. Like, maybe he really
Yeah.
enjoys it, and
Yeah.
because he like took the reins right away.
It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I was so pumped for him.
You might all yell at me for this, but I was like, why did they come up with this thing to get the Sorcerer's Stone? Like, okay, all
Right.
professors, you come up with some riddle or some game or puzzle to get through. Like, the darkest wizard cannot solve
Yeah.
all of
I
these
know.
things to
Like,
get to
these
it.
little wizards still know how to play chess or
But
know
the
how to solve
dog,
riddles.
the only thing was the dog.
Yeah.
No one knew how to stop the dog. Like, I'm like, what? This is so strange. And then I'm like, they could have just had Dumbledore's thing, and that's it.
Seriously.
Just
Yeah.
the mirror.
Hmm.
Because
That
that was
would've been
that
fun.
was the linchpin behind the whole thing. His was the wisest. His was the best by far.
I just found that interesting.
Yeah.
But I guess it's a team effort.
Hmm.
All
There-
the houses have to come together.
Yeah, we'll get to this in the
Mm.
next chapter too, because it seems like Dumbledore set Harry up to do this. So the tests to me almost seem like arbitrary, only to the point where he felt it necessary that Harry has to go through something slightly difficult in order to like meet his maker, I guess, and maybe even weed out Hermione and Ron, because maybe he had to meet him alone, and Dumbledore maybe knew that Ron was going to go, so maybe he convinced McGonagall to do the chess thing, so Ron would do that and maybe get hurt in the thing or something like that.
So
Hmm.
Dumbledore can
Hmm.
see the future.
In a weird way, in the we'll get to this in the last chapter, but he seemed to have been, for lack of better metaphor, like using, like he was like everything was a chessboard for him.
Hmm.
Like he was moving pieces in a way
Yeah,
that
that's
no
true.
one really knew or understood, but in his mind things just worked out like that very well.
Well, the invisible cloak was like one
Yeah,
part of that, I feel like.
yeah.
Yeah.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
Because I
But-
think
It also wasn't perfect. Like, he made the mistake of going to London
Yeah.
and had to
Mhm.
turn around. He's like, oh, I'm more needed there.
Hmm.
Like, it wasn't a perfect, like, he knew the future. It was just kind of like, maybe he wanted Harry to get through the stuff and set him up. And
Did he actually go to London, or he just like, I'm gonna go have some tea with my neighbor,
Yeah.
and I'll time
Hmm.
this right, and I'll come right back.
Because that's a
Interesting.
fascinating question,
Hmm.
because that could have happened. Even he could have been on his way to London just like to go to have
Hmm.
tea at London,
Hmm.
and then like purposefully done it just so Harry almost had the permission to do it. Because think about it,
Oh, yeah, you're
if
right.
Dumbledore was there and
he would have
and,
gone to him.
and McGonagall came and said, "We know what about the Sorcerer's Stone," Harry would have probably gone to Dumbledore, because
Hmm.
McGonagall would be
Hmm.
like, "This is
Oh, yeah.
serious."
Yeah.
But because Dumbledore wasn't there, maybe it gave them room to be able to do this themselves. So like
Yeah,
he
you're
was
right.
able to.
Or
And- Go ahead. Because it's interesting too, because we're going to touch on this in the later next chapter, but Dumbledore is very excited when Harry knows who Nicholas Flamel is, because he says, "Oh, you did the thing properly, didn't you?" Which is a
Hmm.
fascinating line
Hmm.
that we'll pause on and we'll get to later.
Ooh.
Well, what do you want to say?
I was just saying too, maybe Voldemort wouldn't have gone through the chambers if Dumbledore was there, so he had to leave.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point too, because he's the only one that Dumbledore, or he's the only one that
I'm, like, afraid of.
he who must not be named feared.
I'm the only one not following the rules here. Shocking.
But I don't know. That's just an interesting one to me. So you don't like the test, but if you can add one test to the thing, what would you do?
I don't not like it. I don't know. I feel like they need another one. Sure. I can't think of anything.
Yeah,
right now.
I couldn't
I'm
think of anything
blanking.
for this. I tried, and then I was like,
What about making a pineapple tap dance across the room?
gosh, there we go. The golden response.
Yeah. Just the most basic
You have to
thing.
choreograph the perfect dance. Make the pineapple.
Yeah.
Go.
It's like with one of the potions, Hermione said that some people are so brilliant, but they don't have plain logic. Like some people are so brilliant they don't even know a plain spell to make a pineapple tap dance across the room. That would get some people. I forgot the spell. It was in 6th grade.
Yeah.
It's like, are you smarter than a 5th grader?
Yeah, that's
Oh
great.
my gosh, yeah.
I wanted to see more heart tests. You know, like actually examining the hearts if spells can do that in other ways, because that's like more dependable. Or at least if we go the other way, I was thinking like a classic password. You know, you get to some door and you have words you have to say. When you say those words, it opens. Then only certain people know those words. Granted, Quirrell still probably would have gotten in because he would have been told. But the idea of you have a very small pool of people that have access at that point.
I have a question. How come Quirrell does he have his own? Oh, the troll was his.
Yeah, the troll was his.
So I was like, I don't remember.
Yeah. And he was knocked out. He had a special affinity for trolls. He can do whatever he wanted. He was very good. I think that's a good one. I think riddle, in my mind, a riddle would be kind of interesting because I think a riddle would kind of weed out a lot of people too. It's obviously not as good as Dumbledore's. Dumbledore's is like by far the best one out of all of them, but I feel like a riddle would be better than a lot of the other ones because if you have a riddle, you can almost specifically design it so people who are somewhat pure of heart know the right way to go. Like I'm thinking like speak friend and enter from Lord of the Rings or something like that. So I don't know. I think that would kind of be interesting. But now we are into chapter 17, the penultimate chapter, the man with two faces. Okay. The ending of the previous chapter, it wasn't Snape and it wasn't even Voldemort. And then it was Quirrell. Obviously you didn't expect it was going to be Quirrell, right?
No.
Oh.
And he's like this quivering, weak professor, like, or he stutters or whatever he does. I'm like, you?
Yeah, seriously.
Ugh.
Yeah, you just wouldn't have suspected him. I didn't.
No. So they have this full long conversation. There's lots of questions that I have for this conversation, but one I want to talk about a few just more specifically. Voldemort, what do you think Voldemort actually is at this moment? They kind of touched on it a little bit, but not like in a huge detail. What do you think he actually is at this moment?
Like physical form?
Mhm.
Like what is he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fascinating question. So I was like, I don't know how to answer that.
Like a spirit kind
Yeah.
of thing? But not really because he has a face.
Because he needs to like attach himself.
A leech.
Ew.
That's actually an interesting
Yeah.
description, like a parasite or a leech. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what he is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because he had to do that. And like this even touches on what do you think happened to Voldemort as soon as he couldn't kill Harry? Because this is kind of when it happened. He
know,
like
like,
lost
when-
form, like lost his power. But what exactly was he?
Yeah, like,
I
how did
pictured
he-
him like a spirit. Yeah, just like he can float around being a ghost. He can go wherever he wants, but he has to, like a parasite, like attached to something physical to have a form. But it felt like he was so weak that he had to use his wits to get anything physical to agree to this like thing. He couldn't just like take over someone. He couldn't overpower them. He had to be accepted almost. So he was able to do that with Quirrell.
But
And then at the end of this, could he do it again to someone else? Probably.
I was just going off of that. It was like he had a huge following though, right? Because it was like all the I don't know. It's like I'm like, it's like Satan when he took all the angels with him. They're all demons now. Where he has his own crew. So I'm like, they all know how powerful he is. So I'm sure they would do anything for him. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, have my body. Do
But
whatever
maybe
you
he
want.
Right.
chose Quirrell because he's like, good, we got some Hogwarts stuff going on. I want the Sorcerer's Stone. And then as this ends, he immediately goes back to one of his other people and chooses the right person to join up with.
Maybe. Was this the first person he attached to?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because I'm trying to think, after the attack on Harry and his parents, like, what did he do? What was he right after?
But then Quirrell said something about like I messed up, and then he punished me even harder. So then I thought maybe he wasn't always in his body, and then he got punished, and then he like attached himself to him. Like you don't follow my rules anymore. I have to be part of you now.
That's kind of how I read that too. Like he was some ethereal thing, and then because Quirrell couldn't quite get everything perfect, he was like, I need to monitor you now, so I'm gonna go in the back of your head, and you're gonna wear a turban. I know.
But he smells too, right?
Oh yeah,
for sure.
So it's like dead.
Like take a shower.
Dead person attached to, like, ugh. Everything about that was just like a leech.
Yeah.
Or like a
I feel like that's a
parasite.
great
Ugh.
description. Ew.
And they have a really interesting conversation too, because Voldemort essentially tries to say that his parents were cowards and his parents really didn't fight back, everything like that. And Harry shouts back at him. He goes, liar, which I love. Like Harry knows his parents even from the little that he knows of them. And then Voldemort says this. He goes, how touching, it hissed. I always value bravery. Yes, boy, your parents were brave. I linked your father, or I killed your father first, and he put up a courageous fight. But your mother needn't have died. She was trying to protect you. Now give me the stone unless you want her to have died in vain. I think it's just such an interesting line.
That makes me just randomly think that Voldemort just wanted to kill the men. Like he didn't care about the mom.
Or was he just trying to get to Harry? I feel like he was
knew
like
something about Harry.
I don't know. I feel like it was like a
future,
almost childish from Voldemort's point of view. Like it was like I just want to like stick it to you. I don't know. That's how I took it.
Maybe.
And then I'm thinking also though, if Dumbledore can see the future and he's that powerful, then Voldemort can see the future and maybe wants to stop Harry from becoming the most powerful person. Wizard.
And it's interesting you say that. Maybe Voldemort's one flaw is that he's sexist, and he doesn't think women.
Why did I find that?
He doesn't think witches can perform extraordinary magic, so he really underestimates them.
Wonder why you thought that.
And then he has this really great line too. There is no good and evil. There is only power, and those too weak to seek it.
Oh, I read that like 5 times in a row.
That's like this.
Elaborate. I don't know if I have anything to elaborate. It was just like, I don't know. It was like a deep, deep thing to take in.
That's like the summary of Voldemort's life, I think.
Yeah.
He sees power out there, and he wants to snatch that for himself and have power over other people. Whereas Harry doesn't want that at all, which is why the Mirror of Erised worked so beautifully for him. Like the goal was that someone who looks into the mirror and wants or doesn't really want to use the stone will be able to obtain the stone, because Harry doesn't want to use it for power. He doesn't really want to use it at all, period. He wants what is right. He wants justice, really, in the end, which is a beautiful idea. Like the contrast between Voldemort and his prideful self and his power hungriness versus Harry, who wants nothing to do with power or his fame or anything like that. He just wants justice to be done. I love that.
Yeah.
The Flamels, so all this stuff happens, and Harry kind of gets knocked out for a little bit before he sees something rush. And
did we do a
he doesn't
summary
really
of
know.
this chapter?
Oh, man.
Oh, no.
Jen,
No,
thank
we
you.
didn't.
Jen, give us a summary of this chapter. Since you so
That's
kindly...
Danny's job. He's really good at it.
No.
What do you have written
I'll
down?
never remind you again. Wow, thank you for that. Summary. What is the summary of this chapter?
Harry was knocked out by Voldemort. He wakes up. Dumbledore is talking to him and saying that he's going to tell the truth. He can ask questions and he'll tell the truth to whatever he can tell at this time. And then his friends visit, and then it kind of just ends there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, wraps up the school year and everything.
Yeah. School year ends, they go back to the
Yeah.
train, all that kind of stuff. So in their conversation, there's some really touching lines in their conversation. I want to talk about this for a little bit, but
Oh, one thing I wanted to say about he who shall not be named. I feel like he gave him a choice. Like he actually wanted to convert Harry in there at a moment. And I was kind of wondering if some of what Dumbledore was doing was for that choice right there, whether Harry was going to choose to join him for power or whatever else, or not and fight back. Because that's when he yells liar and then he yells never. And I was like, I feel like Dumbledore wanted Harry to be an independent and strong wizard, even though he was young, because maybe he knew this choice was going to come up, like better to save your own life and join me. Like, that's an interesting moment. And then what would have happened if Harry had joined him? Ultimately, did Voldemort want to be a parasite on Harry or like take over whatever power he has, or they could, rule the galaxy as whatever, father and son, whatever. So I just thought it was interesting that it felt like he had a choice.
Oh, I like
and
that.
he chose right.
Yeah.
it's almost like Dumbledore was setting out for that choice, kind of, I guess. If we're taking that like theory, because he leaves and he's like, maybe he doesn't fully know what Harry's gonna do or how he's gonna act yet. He like lets him do all this stuff to test him, because he could probably even still probably take down this kid if he turns out to be evil. He's gonna like slaughter him.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, Harry, you chose power. Sorry, wrong move.
You're done.
You're done.
I like that sound effect. Do it again.
I'll come up with all the sound effects for this podcast. That's the killing one.
Whoa.
It's gonna be gross to edit that one.
I didn't think you were going to do it again. Yes.
Okay. Anyway, in their conversation, you guys see anything else that was fun in the conversation between him and Voldemort, or he who must not be named? Apologies. Until a few more words, a few more paragraphs. So in their conversation with Harry and Dumbledore, there's a few like really cute lines that happen, and there's one in particular that Harry is nervous of because he thought it was sad that Nicholas and Perenelle were going to die because they were giving up. They were destroying the stone. And I just want to know, Dumbledore says that they have enough elixir stored up. How much elixir do you think they really have stored up? Is it like, did they like buy out a second house so they can store tons of elixir so they can like live another 1,000 years?
What is it again? What like
keeps you
form
alive.
is it?
It's like I guess it's like a drink.
Liquid?
Yeah.
Okay.
They have their liquor on one side of their
Yep.
fridge and their elixir on the other.
Oh my goodness.
They're French. They gotta have like some good wine, probably.
I don't know. It's probably like one of those tanks, like the water tanks, like that you drive by on the highways.
Yeah. Like
It's
several.
just like a little tap on the bottom. You like do it.
Or in the city, right? Aren't they above like some of the buildings?
Yeah.
Wow.
A big water tower filled with the elixir of life. That's what I would do, probably.
I can just picture you with like the end, the nozzle just going go, 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 go. Like,
No, you're getting with the sound
no
effects.
cup, just straight to mouth.
I love there's a really beautiful line in this too, because Harry is nervous. He shows sorrow for them, and Dumbledore goes, to one as young as you, I'm sure it seems incredible. But to Nicholas and Perenelle, it really is like going to bed after a very, very long day. After all, to the well-organized mind, death is but the next great adventure. What do you think about that line? And specifically, why is it to the well-organized mind that death is the next great adventure?
Oh man, I can give like a personal experience to relate to this. A few years ago, I'll say like 5. It was longer than a few years ago. No, I was like terrified. I tell you, like crippling anxiety, terrified of death, just because of certain like experiences I went through. And I feel like this really hit me. Another quote that I wrote down, because I was like, wow, that really makes sense. Because I feel like once I stopped, and of course, like, you know, me in my personal life, I was praying, reading the Bible more, like, and I realized how chaotic my mind was. And that was where the anxiety was stemming from. And the more I like stopped myself and kind of really pressed into what I believed or claimed to believe, that like whittled away, and I was able to accept death because it's the only guarantee in this life, you know? And like, to me, I was more organized in those thoughts, and I was able to accept it more, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
like, I feel like that made so much sense with my personal experience that I went through. And like, while I was anxious and chaotic, I couldn't handle it. I didn't want to like think about it at all. So I don't know. That was my take on it.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That makes me understand it better. So
Oh,
thank
good. I mean, that was only like my insane personal experience that I went through. It really hit me. So
That's true. Almost like, yeah, it's maybe it seems sad to some other people, but like the acceptance of it, and then it just like calming for your mind. You're able to kind of just take a deep breath and go, oh, okay. This happens to everyone. Like I was telling you guys, there's another show that I love called Bluey, which is a kid show. But there's an episode
really
in
like
there
it?
that it's called The Bumpy and the Wise Old Wolfhound, and it's based off of another tale about someone who is distraught when they've one of their children died, and they go to someone and they want the person to save the child who's died, and this person instructs them and says, go, you have to find some object from a family who has never experienced death, and they can't find it, and the moral of the story is that everyone's experienced this. So it's like, you are no different from anybody else. People will experience this thing. It's a good line.
I like how it says that, but the next great adventure, like there's an afterlife.
I thought of that too. Yeah.
Well, for me, it would be heaven, but
Right.
I'm like, they even like talk about that in a way.
Yeah, seriously. Do you find these books to be religious in any way? Like, did you catch that at all?
I parallel everything to the Bible and the story of Jesus, so it's hard for me not to find parallels to that. So to me, it is. Even things like this. It was like, that's, you know, a parallel to it, but that could just be my mind.
But then it's good and evil, and where does good and evil
Right.
stem from? I mean, how would you know evil if good didn't exist? Like, so
Yeah.
how can it not? To me.
Yeah, I feel like this book sets up a lot of things. If I'm going to see big parallels, it's going to be in the overall story from 1 to 7, not necessarily here. So I didn't make a whole lot of connections, but I'm curious where she's going to take certain things. And even like Dumbledore's role, or like parallels to other Bible stories, things like that. I feel like she didn't get too political or too religious yet.
Yeah,
for sure.
I agree with
Yeah,
that.
it's definitely not blatant.
Yeah.
Like I said, I like dig for that stuff.
Yeah,
So I'm like, what can I
great.
pull?
Guys, it's
Yeah.
anti-religious. It's witches and wizards.
What?
You're not allowed to read this for your
Oh.
kids.
It's illegal.
Oh, boy.
And then Dumbledore just has so many great lines in this, and so many interesting lines too. He says another one here that I want to talk about. He says, "The truth," Dumbledore sighed. "It is a beautiful and terrible thing, and should therefore be treated with great caution." What do you think of that line? Do you agree with it? Do you not agree with it?
Could you read that again?
He says, "The truth," Dumbledore sighed, "it is a beautiful and terrible thing, and should therefore be treated with great caution."
That is a great line.
Yeah.
I think with great I mean, because if sometimes the truth hurts, right? So do you want to, with caution, like how are you going to address something in a loving way, but it is truthful maybe? But a terrible thing, I don't know how that plays into it.
Maybe it could be terrible for some people. I'm thinking maybe like to the
Hmm.
individual.
Depending on what
Yeah.
they're going through.
Yeah.
Or like ignorance is bliss, like sometimes easier, especially for Harry. I'm thinking about his parents where I'm like, it's real easy. He can just idealize them. He can see them in the mirror and just be like picturing their smiling faces. But then there could be a darker side, you know, that he doesn't understand yet. So then maybe the truth is painful. And Dumbledore's like, well, we're just not going to talk about stuff yet. You're not ready yet for whatever this hard truth is that he might share in the future.
Because when someone shares something with you, it kind of changes your whole perspective and like how you live out your life too. So being cautious about when to release certain information. Like even as kids, right? Growing up, our parents didn't tell us certain things that were going on in their lives.
Yeah, true.
Because that would probably affect us a certain way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting too because there's a weird resilience for kids, but there's also like things that you just need to shield kids from as well. So sometimes I really respect like Mr. Rogers because he didn't necessarily dance around too many difficult issues. He just tackled them head on with the kids that he was like that were watching the program. But he did it in a very tactful way, obviously. So you can't just be like, oh well, you're gonna die soon. So that's it. I think this was cute. My nephew saw my brother was growing a tiny little like stubble, and he goes, "You're pretty close to dying now, aren't you?"
That's so funny.
It's so cute. Oh my god, so funny.
Oh, how they view the timeline of life.
I know, seriously. I don't know why I even said that, but
Are you deleting that?
yeah.
No, it's cute.
But yeah, it's just, yeah, I think the truth. It's was just a shocking line to me, I think.
I also think there is a certain, well, it's not arrogance here, but there's like a power dynamic too, like parents shielding children. They have authority there. Dumbledore shielding Harry. That's like very different than people like peers. I think that's kind of part of it too. Like some people have the right to make that decision for another person, whether they're going to get the truth or not. Other people, I don't think have that right, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends.
Yeah, I think you're right. Because he does give him some information, and there's another really great line. I just keep saying there's so many good ones in this chapter. I love this little debrief that they had. But he goes, "Your mother died to save you. If there is one thing Voldemort cannot understand, it is love. He didn't realize that love as powerful as your mother's for you leaves its own mark, not a scar, no visible sign. To have been loved so deeply, even though the person who loved us is gone, will give us some protection forever. It is in your very skin." Oh my gosh, that's so good. I love that so much. What do you guys think that means for this story?
Love conquers all.
Yeah, I feel like it's powerful. Like as much as he who shall not be named. Like
we're like 2 pages away from being able to call him.
Yeah, that's why like that quote that you said before where he said there's no good and evil. It's like he doesn't want to acknowledge that love has power, or he wants to try to hide that from Harry because it clearly does. It was like a visible conquering that he had from his mother. So I feel like, I don't know, like you said, love is, you know, it conquers all.
It's like,
powerful.
in a weird way, I'm reminded of Monsters, Inc. a little bit when I think of that, because they are going how scaring kids is a power, but they find at the end laughter. Kids' laughter is so much more powerful than their fear.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same of this story. Like Voldemort is seeking power, but he doesn't understand how much more powerful love can be. And that's a byline for so many different stories too, how one thing is more powerful than another. Like even in Inside Out, which is one of my favorite Pixar movies, it's how I think it's more specific or more nuanced too, in that different emotions and different things have different power at different times. And like joy has certain power in one sense, but when someone moves, then sadness becomes really, really powerful and then transforms things to become joy through them, which is just a beautiful idea, a beautiful concept. But I think Voldemort's lack of understanding of love, I think, is a huge one.
Yeah. It's almost like he wants power and fear to be the only things acknowledged, because then he can have the power through that fear. Bring love in, and that obliterates it.
And I just love even just the line, it is in your very skin.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's more than just a scar. Oh, it's so good. And then we can start saying he who must not be named now, because Dumbledore says fear of a name only increases the thing, fear of the thing itself. So I mean, I'm gonna start saying Voldemort.
All right, I think I'm ready. With Dumbledore's help, we'll get there.
Yeah, you might be hesitant about it some other times, but like it's okay.
I'm still more like Ron than Harry, but
sure.
you know,
for sure. Maybe in the
finding it here.
Yeah, maybe in the future we got to be afraid of it or sometimes or something like that. But here's one of the final questions that I have for you guys is, before we kind of do the summary of everything, is do you think Dumbledore meant for Harry to go after Voldemort? And then on top of that question, what are your general thoughts on Dumbledore and Harry? Actually, let's hold that question, because I just want to know, do you think Dumbledore meant for Harry to go after Voldemort?
Kind of. It's like you were saying before, he kind of like set it up and was like, let's see what you do with this on your own. I don't know. And he gave him the invisible cloak. Like, why would he give that back?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like there were too many little things that like pointed to him kind of nudging him forward with it.
Do you also think it's because, like we talked about this before, but do you think it's because Dumbledore knows that he's going to conquer this again, or do you think he's actually testing Harry in this sense? Or he doesn't really know Harry fully yet, and he's like, I need to figure out if this kid can do something. And then if he ends up seeking power, then he can just go, what's the sound effect? Or something like that. I don't know what the sound effect was.
Second one, I think. I think he's also just helping him build confidence too, like kind of like a guidance and showing him, like when you have small wins, you can tackle more things, or he can, yeah.
I found your theory with the choice fascinating, because it was like it was almost like Dumbledore didn't want to sway him by his own teachings or opinions. Maybe that's why he was kind of absent until this point. So then Harry was able to make the choice on his own. And then Dumbledore steps in and kind of like gives all these brilliant talking points after the fact.
But you passed.
You know, like he
Yeah.
gave him the choice. He didn't want to sway him.
And maybe that choice had to happen now while Voldemort is not as powerful. Like if it went a little farther, or if Dumbledore was trying to control Harry more, or like, I don't know, maybe the rebellious side of Harry would want to explore other options. But I feel like he really did have the choice to decide to be good, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a hard time picturing Dumbledore as orchestrating the whole thing. Something about it feels too weird, too like gambling with Harry's life. I'm like, I don't like it. It feels like I need to know more information. I'm not like against it, but I don't know how seeing the future works from Dumbledore's perspective. I'm not fully into that yet. So we'll see in future books if that's like an actual thing, or if he just really understands emotions and can try and predict what people are going to do. But either way, I'm like, that seems like quite a risk to take with a child's life. And can you really trust an 11-year-old to choose between good and evil and have it be like his answer, like the thing? I'm like, I don't know. I don't like it. So we'll see.
But then he was so against Slytherin house, right? Like he's like, I don't want to be in that house when the Sorting Hat came. So I feel like Dumbledore already knew, like, he's probably going to pick. I don't know.
No, you're right. He already had some kind of choice in there.
Some kind of evidence.
Yeah.
Let's do like a rapid fire one. I didn't put this on the questions, but if you had to give a one-word summary on some of the major characters, like what is a one word that you describe like Hagrid by?
Jolly.
Well, that's a good one.
That's a really good one.
Friendly.
I like it.
Yeah, I was gonna say caring.
Yeah. I'm gonna steal all three of yours. How about Ron?
Loving. Like he just like
I was gonna say doofus, but that sounds mean. Because he's
but
the
kind
best.
of.
He's so great, like in the most lovable way, though.
Do you just call yourself Ron?
Well, I'm a doofus, and I know I am.
Yeah, he's inviting. I'm thinking of like the first scene with him and Harry.
How about Hermione?
Brilliant.
Nerd.
Yeah. Oh, he's like teacher's pet.
Oh, that's a good one.
But it cheapens her. I feel bad saying that, but we haven't gotten to really see her shine quite yet.
She's like a perfectionist too.
Yeah,
though.
book smart.
Yeah.
How about McGonagall?
Strict.
I was gonna say stern.
Yeah, Stern was what I was thinking.
Let's do Snape.
Conniving.
He's confusing to me.
He's bitter.
Ooh, I like that one.
Getting deep.
Dumbledore.
Wise.
I think of him as disciplined. I don't know why. Like in touch with his emotions. Discipline just comes to mind.
Those are good ones. I don't know. Headmaster.
That's a great one. And then let's do Harry.
Ugh. Just a word for him?
No, there's a lot.
Like conviction. Like, yeah.
I'm gonna go with determined.
Yeah. Brave would have been similar.
I love that. These are such good descriptions. I can't wait to revisit these after every book. It's gonna be so fun. All right. So let's go over some summary questions. We won't stay on these for too long, but what is your favorite moment in these 3 chapters?
I loved when Neville stood up to his friends. I thought that was a really cool part. Small, but big for Neville.
You know what's crazy? That I read right through that. Like I didn't even.
Oh really?
Yeah, and then when they were like, "Oh, he gets points for it," I'm like, "Wait, what did I miss?" That he stood up again, so I had to go back. I was just going so fast through this chapter.
You also mentioned the Neville standing up to his friends, and I think it was interesting how rigged the point system is because Gryffindor is down 150 points, and you know what? 50 points for Ron for being good at chess. I'm like he says it like that way. I'm like, do you just say like, yeah, maybe this is Dumbledore's way of saying things, but
yeah,
he did more than that for sure.
He wanted
Hermione,
anticipation or
for sure.
some kind of.
Yeah, Hermione gets 50 points. Harry gets 60 points.
Wait, he said Harry got 60?
Harry got 60.
What an odd number.
I know.
It's just like
He
a
should've
little
got,
better
like,
than Ron being good
1,000
at
points.
chess. Yeah,
Right.
He just versed Voldemort. He gets
I know.
60
but
points.
for defeating a troll, they only got 5 points between the two of them.
Right.
That's true.
It's insane.
Where are the point system rules? That's all I want to know. Where are the point
And the
system
fact that
rules?
Slytherin has won 7 years in a row, maybe Snape has found a way of manipulating these points. Or maybe they're genuinely just really good at all of this stuff. But it feels like justice was served eventually, but it's just an awkward way to get there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Although I was pretty psyched when Neville got his points. I was tearing up a little bit. I was like, this is the best.
Yes. Was that your favorite moment in these?
Well,
chapters?
it was like a favorite moment. It was an emotional moment, so to speak. But I think when they were starting to come out of that slump and scheme about how to get to this trapdoor, I think that was like that momentum carried through all the riddles and key and all that jazz. That was the best part to me.
You just reminded me of I can't find the part in the last chapter though, but I teared up in the part where Dumbledore is talking about how much his mom loved him and that he had, well, I guess it was kind of like the one that you read earlier.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the first time he like realized how much his parents like love or somebody loved him, but obviously his parents. And I was like, and he's like crying, like had to, oh, that was so sweet. Like he had to like sit there and just like kind of compose himself. And Dumbledore just like looks out the window until he's like ready to talk again.
Self-aware enough. He
Or
looks out.
what Hagrid got him. Like that was Hagrid, right? Who reached out to all of the friends.
Oh my!
I was like, oh my goodness!
So
and you could tell that
sweet.
Harry was tearing up too because he didn't have any words, but Hagrid knew how he felt.
Oh.
I was just like, that is a thoughtful gift.
Yeah.
That was legit.
That is such a good gift. All those things made me tear up. Like honestly, it's like my 10th time through, and I still tear up at these things. Like there's so many. People are just so thoughtful. It makes me so optimistic for people sometimes. I love this book. Okay, who is your favorite character, or we'll just talk about who do you think won these 3 chapters?
Oh man, I'm Team Neville.
Yes.
I went with Neville.
Yeah. Won the house cup for him. I love that so much.
I mean, I feel like I have to say Harry because he really did crush it. But Ron did also risk his life. What did he get knocked out, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty intense. And he took one
Hermione
for the
risked her life too, because if she would have been poisoned if she had one of the
Oh,
things.
you're right.
Yeah.
I feel like all 3 of them. Man, it's hard to choose. But Harry's journey was probably the most intense.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons. So I'll give it to him.
Yeah, I was probably gonna say Harry, but Ron too. Because then wasn't Ron? I mean, nope. Yeah, all 3 of them.
I know, it's
Every
hard to
book is
choose.
going to be all
That's
3
why
of
I went
them.
with Neville.
Okay, yeah, Neville's great.
I'm going Team Neville. I love Neville so much in these. Oh my gosh. So let's just talk about big book stuff. So what was your favorite chapter in this entire book?
I still go back to Diagon Alley. Something about it. It's just like discovering this whole new world, and it just was so fascinating and so many weird characters. That was just really fun to read. That's when, like, that chapter for me was when I was hooked. So that was a good one.
Was it like the 2nd chapter?
No, it was farther. It was
Yeah.
like the 5th
I
chapter.
think it's the 5th or 6th.
Wow, it took you 5 chapters.
I mean, like, I was continuing to read. I liked it, but at that point, I was like into it, you know?
It only took me the
different
first one. I was like, ooh, I like this. My favorite chapter? That's so hard.
It is.
They looked at each other.
Like looking and pointing at each other, both like not wanting to make words come out.
Okay, so I'll go off to that. I'm gonna go with the Mirror of Erised.
No.
I feel like that. I mean, like you really explained that well, but like I feel like I don't know. It was really touching, and I feel like we got a good look into Harry, like the emotional side of him, and he's still just a kid, and like what he wants. I thought that was a really touching chapter. It kind of stuck with me.
Yeah. Because J.K. put all sorts of subtleties into like actually getting to know Harry as a character where you feel like you really do know him before that. But as soon as that chapter happens, I feel like you know him on a deep level that like you don't before.
Yeah, I feel like she opened up his heart for us to see in that chapter.
Yeah. I think that's probably my favorite chapter too in this.
Yeah. I'm just going off of pure, like, I love unicorns, so that chapter, the Forbidden Forest, just sticks with me because I'm like, I want to see what a unicorn looks like.
Oh my God.
That was a fascinating chapter.
Incredible. That was a great chapter.
Dying. Oh my.
That was a great
And
chapter.
then I think I liked it too because then it was explaining, well, there was a bunch of different creatures, right? How do you say that other?
The centaur?
The
Yes,
centaur,
thank
yeah.
you. That was interesting too, just like having another character or another creature or whatever you want to call them into the chapter, but them explaining like what the blood of the unicorn was just very fascinating to me because I'm like, I feel like that is going to play into a bunch of things possibly in the future. And then the wands are made out of unicorn like hair, or some of them are. So I don't know, that just all stuck out to me.
Wait, wasn't there something in that chapter where it was like something in the forest was getting dragged? Were they dragging a unicorn around? Is that what we're...
It was kind of like they heard like a cloak being dragged across.
Yeah.
The leaves,
Oh,
dry
okay. Like
leaves.
someone walking or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
He just had never heard something like that before. Yeah, that's a great chapter too. So good. If you were to say what the major theme in the entire book is so far, what would you say it is in this first book?
Love conquers all.
Love
Nice.
it.
That's a great theme.
That's a great one.
Ditto.
Look at you doing the whole book, and I don't have
We're
one.
gonna say ditto now. This podcast.
Ditto.
To that.
Whoa.
See, you can do it.
Yeah.
You were just
I
waiting.
just
You were
had to
saving
study.
it for the whole book.
How did you like this book? I feel like we all know the answer to that because we're doing a podcast on this book. How did you like it?
Well, we committed to this before
I
we even
hated
knew what.
it.
It was terrible.
Was it
Never.
better or worse than your initial thoughts? I
He's
guess?
forcing us to do this podcast, everyone.
I will vicariously live through you if it is the last thing that I do.
I'm totally kidding. It was great.
Better or worse than how you thought it was going to be?
Better, for sure.
Yeah, better. And even from when we recorded the first podcast, I feel like my appreciation for the book has gone up in reading some of the chapters over and discussing them and seeing how much deeper they go than my initial read through. So that even has helped me dive into the story more and nerd out more. So yeah, I'm in now.
Yeah. I mean, I loved it. Obviously.
How many books do you have now? How many versions of Harry Potter?
The first book, I have 4 different editions. Oh, did I not? I have like 2 editions of the full book set
Mm-hmm.
for now.
What about you, John?
I've-
How many editions do you have?
3.5. If you're counting like the online ones, I bought
What
the
is a
audiobooks
half?
because I only have half of the illustrated ones because they only went up to
Oh,
book 4.
Got it.
Oh, nice.
So I'm waiting till he comes out with those. I will I will pre-order those or line up at Barnes & Noble at midnight.
Yep.
I'm tent out for that because I am so
Whoa,
excited to see how he
sweet.
depicts it. For me, that
Mhm.
book has, I think I said this before, but that's given me a whole new love for Harry Potter again. Like when I first got those, because I only had like movie characters in my head. And when I read those books and it was a different depiction of those characters, I was like, I had immediate flashbacks to how I initially read some of the first books. Of like, this was my picture in my head of how I read this character. And like some of those things came back to me and I love that so much because I'm like making this come alive to me again, which I love. Well, thank you so much for joining us on our journey of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone and the first time readers. We are plowing our way through book number 2 now. Thanks for joining us on our journey of Harry Potter and the first time readers.
And the movie?
And we're going through the movie. We have just finished this recording and we're going to watch the movie literally right now
Yes.
over my place.
I'm hungry.
And then we're going to record the episode right
We're gonna
after.
record that
And then
episode
we're
right
going
after.
to critique that.
Yeah.
Jonathan's
Oh,
definitely excited
no,
for that one.
I will embrace it.
I'm going to embrace it too, but I'm also going to critique it. But we're going to go get some food. So thanks for joining us on our journey of Harry Potter and the first time readers.
See you in a few hours.
Thanks for listening. If you want, please give us a review, give it a rating. That is the best thing you could possibly do to get this podcast out there so more people can listen to it. I am obsessed with Jenn, Kristen, and Danny's takes. I think it's so much fun. And we would love to have more people reading Harry Potter for the first time and listening and vicariously living through them for the first time. So thanks for listening.